Good morning and welcome. My name is Stuart Tomp, and I'm currently the Vice President of Human Nutrition for a company called CV Sciences, formerly Cannavest. And I've spent my life in the industry, in the natural product space. I believe you are my tribe. I ran a health food store when I was a teenager. I went to go work for North American Herb and Spice, the oil of oregano. Many of you may recall the little blue bottle, the cure is in the cupboard. I worked with Dr. Ingram for 10 years and then went on to Nordic Naturals, where I had the great privilege of being their global educator. So I got to work directly with our medical and scientific advisory team for about 9.5 years. And I really love the industry and I love the science. And I have a great opportunity today to talk about a very big taboo subject. Let's face it, big subject, right? Big resistance. Little resistance, little subject, right? No resistance, there's nothing there. There's a big taboo around cannabis and around hemp. What we're doing is bringing hemp back. And when you look at something as simple as Business Insider, which would be a very, very commercial publication, people are increasingly interested in CBD, even if THC still gets more searches. CBD is a non-psychoactive part of cannabis, shown to have some health benefits. THC is a psychoactive component and also has some health benefits. However, what we've seen over the last couple of years is an explosion of interest in the non-psychotoxic and non-psychoactive cannabinoids. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, CBD derived from agricultural hemp that is not high THC medical cannabis. So there's a big education curve for all of us around this, so hopefully we'll be able to cover most of it today. The leading player in the space is a pharmaceutical company, GW Pharmaceuticals. Please make a note of that. I think all the doctors should be well aware of what modern medicine is doing with cannabis. Their product, Sativex, is approved in 27 countries around the world, not here yet in the United States. Its indication is for multiple sclerosis spasticity. If you look at the dose, 2 milligrams of CBD, 2 milligrams of THC per spray. It is not synthetic. They're growing cannabis. They're cloning it. It's a phytopharmaceutical. It's a brave new world. You can no longer say that's the drug, this is the natural compound. They also have a drug called Epidiolex. We anticipate this will be approved in 2017 for seizures. This is a remarkable drug. They're showing a 50% reduction in seizures on top of standard of care. 50% reduction of seizures on top of standard of care. And again, it is not a synthetic compound at all. So I speak at Expo East and Expo West all the time. I recently asked retailers in the natural product space, how many of you have actually used or carrying these CBD products in your store? You see this overwhelming response of people that are way ahead of the conversation. The Hemp Business Journal just published their first issue of what's called the CBD Report. Yes, indeed, that is a real publication. It costs about $450 to get the report, and it's packed with information that is suggesting this is going to be an enormous market. We'll look at some of that data together. If you've not availed yourself of Sanjay Gupta's documentaries, please watch Dr. Sanjay Gupta's documentaries, Weed 1, Weed 2, and Weed 3. He's not necessarily a proponent of nutritional medicine the way that we are, the way that you are. He's not bullish on vitamin D or even omega-3, but he put his head on the chopping block for the remarkable powers of cannabis. And it's been around for a long time. Eli Lilly sold the stuff in 1906. There were 27 competing products back then. What was it made of? Indoor grown, high THC medical cannabis? Of course not. It was made from feral outdoor ditchweed. Hemp. Only a dope would smoke rope, if anybody's ever heard that old adage. That's what they used back then. It's small print, but here from Hemp Business Journal, academics drive CBD explosion. Depression, the #1 indication at the bottom. Pain, heart disease, schizophrenia, psychosis. We have a lot to learn. It's different than the cannabis products. CBD is uniquely different from THC. Neuropharmacology earlier this year. The fast onset of an antidepressant action of CBD and its simultaneous anxiolytic effect would solve some of the main limitations of the current antidepressant therapies. This novel strategy could bring new light to the discovery of new, fast, and effective antidepressant therapies. That's why people are looking at it. Why does it work for some people and not for others? The idea of clinical endocannabinoid deficiency was put forward by the great Ethan Rousseau, at the time the senior medical advisor for GW Pharma. His concept was quite simple. Would it work in people that had low endocannabinoid tone more effectively than people that had hyperactive endocannabinoid tone? Can the concept explain the benefit of cannabis in migraine, fibromyalgia, and irritable bowel? I strongly encourage you to follow Ethan Rousseau's work. So we know that the phytocannabinoids disrupt endocannabinoid metabolism among their many other mechanisms of action. We have 30 minutes today, so we're going to be doing an overview. You can review the slides and the papers at your leisure. One of the mechanisms is that when you take CBD, it inactivates the enzymes that break down arachidonyl ethanolamide known as anandamide, which means bliss in Sanskrit. It's the bliss neurotransmitter. People really resonate with that. When you eat CBD, you knock out fatty acid amide hydrolases and MAGs that degrade endocannabinoids, allowing them to have longer conformation time in the body, elevating endocannabinoid tone, getting somebody healthy, if you will, on their own supply. There's Cb1 receptors in the brain that are the most abundant G-protein coupling receptors, and we have Cb2 receptors in the body. There's a lot to learn. There's no way to oversimplify it. The Cb1 receptors are located mainly in the brain and modulate neurotransmitter release in a manner that prevents excessive neuronal activity, calming and decreasing anxiety, as well as reducing pain, reducing inflammation, regulates movement, posture control, and sensory perception, memory, and cognitive function. THC speaks to the Cb1 receptor. I think you can see it there. In addition, according to Bob Melamede, the ECS also protects cells from electron transport system-generated free radicals via the Cb1 receptor. Very nuanced system. CBD, however, has a mild effect on the Cb2 receptor, which are located in the periphery and lymphoid tissue. CBD helps to mediate the release of cytokines from the immune cell in a manner that helps to reduce inflammation and pain. This is where there's some potential benefit and application. The ECS, via activation of the Cb2 receptor, supports the metabolic shift to the more protective fat burning. So there's a lot for us to unpack and learn here. This paper came out in 2013. Emerging data has revealed that enhanced anandamide signaling can curb the effect of chronic stress. So that's one of the proposed mechanisms of action. And Ethan Rousseau, earlier this year, said a rationale exists for therapeutic interventions that would boost anandamide, such as CBD. But that's not the only mechanism of action. If you really want to learn this, you have to read the Endocannabinoid Om by Vincenzo DiMarzo and Jenny Wang. The gut microbiome, great topic. We've been talking about it for 30 years. The endocannabinoid Om, the next Om we need to learn about. In their words, the ECS is one of the most pleiotropic signaling systems in vertebrae, being involved in all aspects of mammalian physiology and pathology. It's non-negotiable. You need to learn about it. And this paper that came out earlier this year really is a beautiful overview of all of the proposed mechanisms of action. Here we have the endocannabinoid system. We talked about fatty acid amide inhibition, the expanded ECS, the serotonin, the opiate system, the dopamine, the others. It's nuanced. It's pleiotropic and pluripotent. There's so much to learn to understand the ECS. But if you go to PubMed, which I know is where we live, and the only website that we use, there's 1,576 papers. Not a lot that's out there right now. So I'm very, very grateful to the Wholeness Center, the work of Scott Shannon, MD. The work I'm about to show you that he has done is in no way, shape, or form an endorsement of our products. He happened to just use the CBD that we gave him, so we want to make sure that there's no marketing whatsoever with the work that he's done. So the first paper that we published, CBD oil for decreasing addictive use of marijuana, a case report. If we're going to make an argument that it's not marijuana, you'd better prove it. You had a patient come into the clinic, had horrible side effects from using cannabis. All the kids are doing it. It's all the rage right now. He said he was stressed out and anxious. It was very bad for him. And in this particular paper, we were able to get the patient from 24 to 18 milligrams of CBD, decreasing their dose and free of their addiction to cannabis. The second paper was just recently published, Effectiveness of CBD Oil for Pediatric Anxiety and Insomnia as part of Ptsd, a case report. 2012, the child had all kinds of problems. They tried to do a nutritional intervention. They looked at the thyroid, all kinds of issues. No luck. They put the young girl on clonidine. She had side effects, hallucinations. That wasn't going to work. Came back into the clinic free of any dietary supplements, not taking any drugs at all, 25 mgs of CBD, a little spray, just like these little bottles, 6 to 12 milligrams per day, with some fantastic results. According to the physician, the main finding of this case study is that CBD oil can be an effective compound to reduce anxiety and insomnia secondary to PTSD. The big question, dosing. Everyone asks about it all the time. It's brand new. We need you. We need you to help us understand what is effective, and that's going to require some time. We don't have a reasonable foundation to recommend dosing from the scientific literature. However, in our experience, the supplement given at 12 to 25 mg once daily appears to provide relief of key symptoms with minimal side effects, and this group is hoping to gradually decrease her off of CBD, transition into a lifelong yoga, meditation, and various other therapeutic activities. We have a big case report that he's been working on right now, which we hope to be published soon. We're very, very excited about that. That's the beginning of the data we have on hemp-derived CBD. There's a lot in the literature on isolated CBD, on cannabis, but with this exact ingredient, we are really at the beginning of something quite new. We're familiar with this group, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. They added a wonderful chapter on the nutritional and medical applications for CBD, hemp health benefits without THC, which is the argument. This is authored by the team neurosurgeon from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Consider that fairly mainstream medicine. And he says the current state of CBD research is still in its early phases. We all know that large randomized studies will be needed before mainstream acceptance occurs. However, hemp-based CBD, they believe, is a novel supplement that with further study could indeed have a profound effect upon improving human health. I also want to encourage you to read this new book, When Brains Collide, by Dr. Michael Lewis, MD, mainly about fish oil and brain protection with omega-3. But we've been working together for some time, and he has a patient now that's using CBD. I don't like testimonials, but when you're a colonel in the Army and a West Point grad and an Army Ranger, and you're a medical doctor with a master's in public health and an MBA, and you were at the Pentagon, and you took care of the justices of the Supreme Court, I hope we can take your word, Colonel Dr. Lewis, sir. And in his book, he has in the back some letters that have been written by one of his patients. Dr. Lewis, thank you so much for giving me CBD oil. It drastically changed my life. Thanks to CBD oil, I'm feeling much more comfortable in my own skin. I'm being more social, and I'm making big, noticeable changes. I'm doing stand-up comedy now. I have my own place. I got a raise at my job, and I'm feeling very optimistic about the future. You don't know this about Bobby, but everyone in the car died but Bobby. He was in intensive care. Dr. Lewis did his own special with Sanjay Gupta. You might have heard about it. They gave so much omega-3 through the feeding tube that Bobby is actually up and moving around. So the omega-3 saved his life. The CBD gave him back his life. A friend of mine I made when I was doing improv comedy told me, and I've been told repeatedly, that I have a great personality and a great zest for life. You gave me my life back again. I can't wait to see what adventures come next. So if you want to follow that story with Bobby and with Dr. Lewis, please follow him and the book. I also want to recommend that you read John Hicks, MD. Just passed away. Fantastic doctor, great mentor and personal friend to me. The medicinal power of cannabis. He was a pediatrician using this low to no THC hemp material with thousands of patients via Skype worldwide. And he teaches a lot in this book. He says that CBD builds chi. THC removes chi, even though that's not language that we use all the time. Very interesting. So you want to learn some more brass tacks, news you can use from an MD, using it in his practice on a regular basis, or is a fantastic source. And then people ask, what about cannabis sativa versus cannabis indica? It's so confusing. Let's go back to Ethan Rousseau. Since the taxonomists cannot agree, I'd strongly encourage that we abandon the nomenclature and insist that accurate biochemical assays on cannabinoid and terpenoid profiles be available. It doesn't matter what the strain is, how many milligrams of which cannabinoid is or is not indicated, what's effective. And so that's a big transition in the cannabis space, and we're leading it. If you grow it outdoors, in our opinion, it's not sustainable. If you grow it indoors, we think it's if you grow it outdoors, it's very sustainable. If you grow it indoors, we don't think it's sustainable. And we're going to need a lot of CBD for a lot of people in the world that will benefit from this. So we believe that the best way to get the message across to people, because they're confused about what is hemp and what is marijuana, we created this graphic for lobbyists in Washington, D.C. Now, I know it's oversimplified, but let's have a little fun. We're serious this morning. How many of you in here drink caffeine on a regular basis? Anybody drink coffee? Okay. Speed freaks. Just kidding. How many of you drink kombucha? Alcoholics? Because there's alcohol in kombucha, right? So what's the definition of zero? And so if you actually look at the FDA's website, a non-alcoholic beer and kombucha is 0.5% alcohol by volume. Decaffeinated coffee, 30 milligrams or less. So we're making the argument that hemp and kombucha, non-alcoholic beer, decaffeinated coffee, fat-free, sodium-free, sugar-free, I know we all disagree with the fat-free thing, at least some of us, right? But this makes an easy argument that people that don't understand to get with the program that hemp products are different than high-risk products. Marijuana, alcohol, caffeine, fat, salt, and sugar. So hopefully that helps to get the point across. But I like to remind people and ask them, answer the question yourself, does that look green or kind to you? It probably doesn't. There's probably other ways to do this. This is how we are doing it. We're managing thousands of acres of agricultural hemp. In Holland right now, we've got all kinds of plots in Kentucky I'll show you in a moment. The advantage of that is that you have biomass, and you can bring 100 milligrams of CBD to market for around $20. When I started a few years ago, 100 milligrams was $100. So the more that we grow of this material, the more we can bring it to a price point where we can help most of society. So you can't do that in a greenhouse. But we're transitioning over to Kentucky because we're looking forward to this agricultural, economic revolution which has been brewing here in the United States for years. And in Kentucky, we're very honored. The first seed in the ground when the Farm Bill was signed was our seed. So we're very, very proud of that. We've done great work at the University of Kentucky. I want to introduce you to Lea Black, the first graduate student to be studying agricultural hemp, and we have funded her education. Everything that she learns is for the entire community. Which plants grow most effectively in Kentucky now that all the genetics are gone? You can't just take it from Australia or from Holland, plant it in the ground, and hope it's going to grow 20 feet tall. We need research. So thank you, Lea Black, for doing the work. I like she puts little bows on her plants. If anybody knows they're going down to Kentucky and you'd like to visit and walk around, please let me know. I'll organize that for you. At Murray State, we have some wonderful partners there. I want you to meet the great Tony Brannon, the dean there. For many, many years, he's been pushing this agricultural hemp revolution here in America. And I love it when he says, look at our cannabis plants. They're different. They get you healthy. They don't get you high. Low to no THC material, loaded with all these other great cofactors we'll talk about here in just a moment. There's some wonderful young farmers getting involved. The average age of the farmer is 60 years old. So why would you get into hemp farming? Because it's the coolest thing you could do. And when you're selling bulk material, you're going to make 8 to 10 times what you would making soybean. We don't need more soybean. We don't need more corn. So when you see our logo there in the fields of Kentucky, that's something we're proud of. When you recommend and use our products, when you buy our products, I want you to see where some of these resources go. We take it, we put it back into the community because we began with the end in mind. Look at our grow now. It's fantastic. Little people down here, plants are getting pretty tall. So we hope in the not-so-distant future that we will have a supply here in the United States of America. We're working with great groups here like Yale and Patagonia. This is a project to grow hemp on strip mines, to maybe use that material for hats and jackets, obviously not for human consumption, but the opportunities are just enormous. When you take this whole plant down, the seed, the stem, and all of it, take it all down, you get fatty acids, cannabinoids, terpenes, plant sterols, chlorophyll, and vitamin E. All of it naturally occurring. So even though it says CBD oil on the label, we're using the entire plant. Anytime you see a green label like this, that lets you know that it's the seed, the stem, and the stalk. And notice the fatty acids, up to 7% GLA in the hemp seeds, and even some stearidonic acid 18,4, which they're engineering in seed oils to help get higher levels of EPA and DHA and to lower pressure on the marine ecosystem. That's all naturally occurring in the products. The cannabinoids come from the leaf, the fatty acids from the seed. The terpenes have their own mechanisms of action, and they could provide benefit. The plant sterols, we're aware of those, they have benefit. Chlorophyll and vitamin E, all naturally occurring. Now, when you look at all the little compounds that are in here, THC might be all the way out there, a trace amount of THC. And sometimes you'll hear from people, you need a lot of THC for it to work. You need THC to activate CBD. Have any of the physicians heard this from some of their patients? Let's ask Professor Raphael Mechoulam. Since he discovered THC, he probably knows more about it than all of us. So in his recent paper, he addressed this. A group in Tel Aviv University has found that a single ultra-low dose of THC, 0.002 mg per kg, several orders of a magnitude lower than the conventional dose in mice, protects the brain from different insults, including inflammation, that cause cognitive deficits. So no, you don't need copious amounts of THC to be helpful for human health. They are different applications. But because of the side effect of THC, it should and will always be regulated, as opposed to the CBD products, which we are very, very, very confident will continue to find their way into the regulatory compliance pathway so that they will always live in our tool chests. We're confident of that. So the products range. Topical is an easy way to get people started. No one has a problem using things topically for the most part, very little resistance. The cannabinoids here are mainly in the acid form, and in the acid form, the plant uses that to kill leaves at the bottom of the stem, autonecrosis, to focus attention to the top of the flower. Why would that help with human health? If there is some kind of a mite or a bug that's in the skin, potentially, if that's adding or complicating a skin problem, it has its own built-in natural antimicrobial activity. So you get the potential benefit of cannabis and what it can do with the extra effect of it being in the natural raw state topically. And then we have sprays. Again, you see the green label, it's the full plant. It says hemp oil, aerial plant parts, 12 milligrams. In that matrix, it contains 1 milligram of CBD. So we are clearly identifying that it's a total plant complex, but we're calling out how many milligrams of CBD you get in the product. This is where a lot of people start. It's 100 milligrams in the bottle. This one's 500 milligrams in the bottle. And I'll show you a dosing titration chart in a moment that we've been using. The capsules are quite effective. 10 milligram capsule. We were at AANP. We have exhibited there the last few years. Many of the doctors were telling us 10 milligrams is an average dose. We had a 25 milligram capsule, and then we put this out. So it's a very easy way to get 10 milligrams of CBD every day. Not just the potential benefits of wellness, but if you're using medical cannabis, or if you have a patient using medical cannabis, and they're seeming a little nervous, they need to be taking about 10 milligrams of CBD every single day on top of the medical cannabis that they're taking. They used to get both of that in the plant, but they bred the CBD out over years to get higher and higher THC levels. When we take the material and we up-concentrate it, so think of turning cod liver oil or fish oil into a highly concentrated EPA and DHA. We're all familiar with that process. That's what the gold products are. So anytime you see a gold label, here's a little soft gel, 15 milligrams in extra virgin olive oil in a vegetarian soft gel. Anytime you see the gold, you have a higher concentration of the cannabinoids, but you notice you have fewer of the other cofactors. And so that's the distinction between the gold line and the green line. And we have a topical product that's double the concentration. This has 100 milligrams of CBD. We have new soft gels like I just talked about in a little blister pack, which everyone has in the handout that I gave you. You could just bite into that capsule, taste it yourself. So this is a very easy delivery system and a great way to meter the dose and increase it over time. We also have drops where you have a higher concentration. Here in this bottle right here, in 19 milligrams of the total complex is 5 milligrams of CBD. So there are ranges of products for you to learn to find out which one is best for which application. And then we have a pro-exclusive line that we made with natural partners in mind. This has 2,000 milligrams of CBD in one bottle. These will only be available to healthcare professionals, and our pro line will continue to expand as we make targeted offerings just for doctors. Dosing is the biggest issue. It's what makes people the most nervous. If we go back to GW Pharmaceuticals and we look at their dosing titration, and I encourage all of you to study their work, patients gradually titrate their dose, number of sprays per day during the first 2 weeks of treatment. On day 1, patients take 1 spray in the evening. They can then gradually increase their dose following the pattern given in Table 1. Once they've titrated their dose to achieve optimal symptom relief, patients can adjust their dose. That's how cannabis has always been. We're going to have to get comfortable with that transition. It's a little bit less take 2 and call me in the morning. If you've asked anybody that's ever used this, they kind of know how much they need. So we're going to have to develop sort of a a different narrative, if you will, a different relationship with talking to our patients about this, in our opinion. So this dosing titration chart, we've been using, it works very, very well. You start slow and low. Here you've got 3 milligrams the first day, 3 milligrams the second day, up to 6 and then 9. You can go 1 capsule up based on what you're dealing with. But this is the idea that we think has been most effective. Now there's mixed information out there. A lot of it is anecdotal. You're hearing all kinds of numbers that are being thrown around. We have a lot that we have to learn, so let's not get too excited about that yet. When it comes to these offerings, there are hundreds of companies that are now trying to get into this space. We were one of the first. Hundreds of companies coming in. Do homework. Ask them, do you harvest it, extract it, import it, test it, third-party test it, convert it, formulate, and distribute it? We have our own laboratory in San Diego. Any of you, if you're coming to San Diego, let me know. Come take a tour of the laboratory. Actually look at where our QA/QC department is. Look at our retention samples. See how seriously we have taken this issue. We all know there's great healing power here, but we had to do it right. We've put an enormous capital investment into this, and we want to share it with experts. So make sure you stop by and check it out. We're in a ton of health food stores, so this is one of those places where it's gotten way, way ahead. Everything, this ingredient has moved so quickly. When I see a setup like this in Louisiana in a health food store, it is a nice indication that times are changing. I've been in the dietary supplement business most of my professional life. This stuff is selling faster than anything that I've ever seen. There's no television marketing. There's no commercials. There's no celebrity endorsement. Why? Why? Because if cannabis was under prohibition for 70 years, and clinical endocannabinoid deficiency is explaining some of our treatment-resistant conditions, it doesn't matter what you throw at it, unless we're helping to nurture and support that system, we might be missing a vital component. Does that make sense? Not for everybody, but in many situations. So the next part that's important to embrace is how much is this stuff going to cost your customers, your patients? Price per milligram is very important to us. We're the leader, we're the biggest company, and we want to have the lowest price product. Value, that's so important. $300 products that change the world, they don't really help the world, do they, if people can't afford them? So we're bringing the highest quality product at the lowest price per milligram so we can help as many people as possible. And we're part of all of the big organizations. If you're selling herbal supplements, you better be part of the American Herbal Product Association. And we sit on the Cannabis Committee, and we've participated, and we continue to force this agenda into the public eye, because it's there whether anybody wants to accept it or not. People have been using this plant for thousands of years. We want to help them use it in a safe, metered, controlled, and effective way. But we need to be part of big organizations to get the job done. And then the hemp industry, which has been so helpful to helping to differentiate this from medical marijuana. It's different. But then when we look at the potential to help people, but also the business opportunity as well. According to Hemp Business Journal, they're predicting $452 million in U.S. hemp-based CBD products by 2020. And look at the practitioner amount, only 3%. That's not right. In my opinion, in our opinion, the doctors should be the leading voice in this conversation. Don't you agree? Not bud tenders. And no disrespect to my people that work in health food stores that are friends of mine. Medical experts need to lead this conversation, and we need to do it quickly. We can't leave it to chance, and we can't leave it to people that are uneducated. So as we are wrapping this up, there are all kinds of regulatory compliance questions that come up all the time. If you could only imagine the last few years of pioneering this, what days in the office must have been like. But we knew that we were doing the right thing for the right reason, for the right people. Cannabis is the first domesticated plant. It's been around forever. The idea that somehow this stuff is completely foreign to us is absolutely preposterous. But there are ways to get ingredients into the market space. And I want to share with you what we've been doing. So in February of this year, Nutritional Outlook, and there are many articles, this is just one that they wrote, is it time for the hemp CBD dietary supplements industry to panic? Not at all, says Insiders, and inside the article is an interview with a doctor who says the completion and publication of safety studies on CBD-rich hemp oil in a peer-reviewed academic journal specializing in toxicology will be, to the best of my knowledge, the first in recent times and a monumental step forward in putting real science behind a product You can't just say to everybody, oh, it's perfectly safe. You have to demonstrate the safety of your ingredient. I would have to conclude that the public and the FDA should applaud this effort, as well as the time, and I might add considerable expense that it took. So we started the process over 2 years ago. This is the 90-day repeated oral toxicity study. You do that after the 14-day study. After this work was completed, which we did at a laboratory that Pfizer also uses in Hungary, so we went big on it. Our manuscript now is on the final look before we hit the submit button to either the International Journal of Toxicology, which is where we're going first, cross our fingers that we get published there, and if not, we can also publish in the Journal of Toxicology. Either or, and once that's published, irrespective of what regulators are trying to say about the ingredient, we've proven its safety. We've proven that it's generally recognized as safe for the intended use at the amount that we're recommending. That is a huge breakthrough for us in the industry, and that will really help to push the narrative going forward. What was the argument? It's unknown and it's not safe. We don't know what's going to happen. Well, now we can answer that question beautifully, that we know it's safe and we also know that it's effective. So how can this stuff help you? There's a range of potential benefits, but more importantly, what it does is balance the endocannabinoid system. Because in the power of our hands, in the palm of our hands, we have finally the most powerful, natural plant remedy that we've ever had. And after years of misinformation and misunderstanding, it's finally here for us, for you, to stay healthy, happy, and strong. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time today.